welcome to another video by Are You Arty Kids. Today I want to talk to you about pencils, these lovely little things here. Basically what I want to talk to you about the fact that each pencil does a slightly different job and how to do some basic mark making. So we've got a 4B here, we've got a 2B, a H and a HB. You might never have thought about what these little codes are on the back end of the pencils, but each one has a slightly different job in some respects. Most people tend to just have a HB kicking around in their pencil cases, which is a good everyday pencil. If you think about it, like a bit of a scale, what we've got here, we've got sort of 8B at this side, and we've got sort of 8H there and HB in the middle. The HB is your everyday workaday pencil, so you can draw with it, you can write with it, that sort of thing. As you move the scale further up this, so 1, 2, 3, etc., up to 8B, the higher the B number, the graphite inside the pencil, it gets softer and softer, so we can get a really rich, smooth, not much effort, really dark tone we can do some super smudging with. Really good for soft, dark tones, shadows, that sort of thing. And the higher the H number at this end, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., up to 8 and above, is quite hard. So hard, think of a H for hardness. So the graphite in the pencil is quite hard here. So a lot scratchier, yeah, really quite sort of scratchy. Quite good for line drawing, for light tone and technical drawing. Okay, so each pencil does a slightly different job. So, you know, if you're doing a really nice sort of tonal drawing, you know, arm yourself with 3 or 4 pencils if you possibly can. Okay, right, so some basic mark making now. This is what I want to talk to you about today. So I'm just going to use, just because it's what probably most people have kicking about at home, just use a HB pencil. First thing I want to talk to you about is the grip. Most people, when they pick up a pen or a pencil from primary school, they're taught this traditional tripod grip. A tripod having 3 prongs, like a camera tripod, yeah, so your 2 fingers and your thumb. So most people have a traditional grip like that. Most people have variations like this, or, you know, like this or anything. It doesn't really matter, but this is a traditional tripod grip. So you get that stability by holding it near the end, you know, and, you know, between the 2 fingers and the thumb. So when you do this, you know, you've got maximum control, you've got a lot of pressure, you can sort of see it on your knuckles, you've got that tension across the back of your hand. So it's quite good for detail work, good for writing, that sort of thing. Only thing is when you're drawing and sketching, you tend to cover a lot of what you're working with this. So I tend to, if I'm sketching, hold the pencil a little bit further back. Also allows less pressure to be put on this end as well, so it doesn't, you know, work with kids a lot and they say, oh, you know, I can't do light tone, you know, it's all too heavy and pressing too hard with my lines. Then just try holding your pencil further back, and then that forces the pressure not to be at that tip end as well. But also changes the angle of the point as well. So if you're working up like this, you're tending to hit the point end of the pencil. If you're working further a little bit back like that, you're getting more of the side part of the pencil as well. So that works out to be a little bit more smooth, less scratchy, less detailed. Okay, so if you wanted to change your grip, if you're doing quite large sketches and you want to be a little bit freer, maybe what you can do is what we call an overhand grip. So where you pick the pencil up, so you're literally over the pencil, and the pencil sits in the palm of the hand, just nice and lightly between the fingers here, and you get a lot more sketching feel about it, less control, but nice, more fluid actions. So one thing I always say with drawing is that, you know, you're not just drawing with your fingers like this. You might be when you're doing detail work, but when you're sketching out, you know, you're drawing more with your hand or your arm, you're getting those big fluid moments. Okay? Right, so let's make some marks then. Let's just zoom in a little bit on our video. What we're going to do is some basic mark making. So, series of lines like this, yeah, we would call these hatch or hatching lines. So if we wanted to use this to shade a particular drawing, if we increase the frequency of those lines, so the lines are closer together, you get that feeling that even though they're just lines, that this looks slightly darker than those lines there. Okay, if I wanted to open them out, gives that feeling and sense of space just between them. Okay, so that's hatch lines. That's one way of maybe adding texture or shading to a particular drawing that you're actually doing. If we look now at increasing this, and then we put a series of lines back over, we have something called crosshatch or cross-hatching. So we've got that sort of crisscross effect little bit like a wire fence almost. Now if I wanted to make this slightly darker, you probably guessed it, if I just increase the frequency of these lines, doesn't matter what angle where, we get that illusion of a darker shaded area. So if we have an open hatch, looks a little bit lighter than something which is slightly more intense, yeah? So that's one way of changing our intensity with that particular shading technique. Something a little bit more traditional, what we're probably more used to, is the whole principle of, you know, pressing hard gives us our sort of darkest tone on that. If I just show you, we talked about earlier on pencils, so if we do the same pressing hard with a 4B as opposed to a HB, you can see how much richer that tone is there. Okay, so if I wanted to vary the tone on this, what I could do is not press as hard, yeah, get a slightly lighter tone, or try and do even lighter. You can see get a slightly lighter tone on here as well. So that's one way of maybe what we probably call it normal or traditional shading. That's what probably most people are familiar with. Thing is, some people still struggle with that. So maybe just try it with a HB pencil, and I see this sort of thing, you know, in shading, and this, you know, and they struggle, and they're still, you know, still seeing all this white paper through. A lot of the time, it's just about making sure your pencil is a little bit not as pointy, a bit smooth, but also getting that pencil a little bit more on the side. But instead of doing big strokes like this, just try, don't take your pencil off, just try shorter sweeps, actually concentrating, moving down the paper, yeah, and then maybe back up. So you see I'm going up and down, but I'm trying not to take my pencil off, and you get a lot softer tonal area. Now shading does take a time to do properly. You've got to really pay good attention to something that you want really, really smooth. So if you're doing the surface of an apple or shading on a face, this is where you're going to need a lot of that control and a lot of that smoothness. So that's sort of, you know, traditional sort of shading. When you're working with these sort of softer, darker tones with something like a 2 or a 4B, see a lot of people doing this as well, and that's another way, the sort of smudge shading, you know, and you can sort of get that really quite nice element of shaded tone on there, but sometimes you still end up with that big heavy element as well there. You can buy special tools for blending and shading as well, these little white sticks you've probably seen. Nice little exercise to do is trying to do something what we call a step wedge or a tonal wedge. So just using my HB again, so I'm just going to start with my darkest tone here, just get a nice little section, don't need to draw boxes, of just between there, and then see if I can actually do a box which is slightly darker, and then one which is a little bit lighter, one which is a little bit lighter again. Try see how light you can possibly go. So once you've got basically 4 or 5 tones, you might then go back up there and go, right, I'm going to make that one slightly darker, I'm going to make that one a little bit lighter, and see if you can. And this is just a really simple exercise, just to practice getting quite a nice tonal range. Once you've had a go at done that, then what you could try is you could try a full little step wedge. So without the little gaps in between, you can press quite hard, get your first tone on here, and then try and not have any gaps between it, and just try and get lighter and lighter and lighter. So you can see it's getting a little bit scratchy there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work lighter and lighter, just keep going over it, trying to go dark to light, and try and get a smooth little swatch, going dark to light, as light as you possibly can at this end. Yeah, so a little bit more skill involved in trying to get a smooth, graduated tonal strip on there. Okay. Other little techniques, stipple. just basic dotting, so quite good if you were doing something very detailed, a bristly beard or something like that. Or you could do a little scribble technique, a little wiry scribble. Yeah, so some of those are the basic sort of mark making techniques you could use. So far we've talked about pencils. We have looked at some very basic things like hatching. Then we've looked at a little one which is cross hatching. And then we've looked at sort of solid tone, tonal wedges, and then some sort of continuous tone, and our little stipple and our little scribbly wiring. Okay, that's it for today.